Township of Parsippany-Troy Hills, Township Council Agenda Meeting of November the 9th, 2023. Posting of notice. Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided in accordance with the requirements of the Open Public Meetings Law by filing the notice in the office of the Township Clerk and by posting the meeting notice on the bulletin board at the Municipal Building on December the 21st, 2022, where it has remained posted since that date. A legal notice appeared in the Daily Record and the Newark Star Ledger on December the 28th, 2023. Councilman Neglia, would you please lead us in the flag salute?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Mr. Madden, roll call, please.
Mr. Karifi. Mr. DePiero.
Here.
Mr. Musella.
Here.
Mr. Neglia.
Here.
Ms. Grignani.
Here.
Also in attendance are Mayor James Barbario, Business Administrator Jamie Cryan, Township Attorney Michael Avery, and Municipal Clerk Colette Madden. Council President, we have a quorum. You may begin.
Thank you. Upcoming meetings. November the 21st, 2023 at 7 p.m. is our regular meeting. And December the 5th, 2023 at 7 p.m. will be our agenda meeting. Presentations. Mayor Barbario?
Sure. Those are reversed.
Excuse me?
That's the agenda, that's the regular. And then I have a report, Council President. Then I have a report.
Okay.
All right. This proclamation from the Township of Parsippany-Troy Hills. Whereas there has been continuing rise in the number of bias and hate incidents across our state, country, and the world. And whereas hateful comments and actions against any group or individual is contrary to building and maintaining a strong, respectful community. And whereas the documentary Repairing the World Stories from the Tree of Life is based upon the deadliest anti-Semitic incident in the United States and focuses on how one diverse community put their differences aside and united together to combat hate. And whereas November 9th through 10th marks the 85th commemoration of the Kristallnacht, also called the Night of Broken Glass, when Nazi hatred attacked Jewish persons and property. And whereas November 12th through the 18th, 2023, is United Against Hate Week. And whereas Repairing Our World, United Against Hate, will take place on November 12th, 2023 at 6:30 p.m. at Dr. Salon in Parsippany. And whereas many civic organizations and faith-based congregations are co-sponsoring the event to bring our community together to reaffirm our stand against hate. And whereas the goal of this event is to have individuals from all backgrounds join together in unity. Now therefore, I, James R. Barbario, the Mayor of the Township of Parsippany-Troy Hills, do hereby proclaim the week of November 12th through the 18th to be United Against Hate Week. And furthermore, I encourage all citizens to affirm the dignity of every human being by uniting against hate and standing in unity by attending the Repairing Our World, United Against Hate event to be held on November 12th, 2023, dated this 9th day of November, 2023. And I want to thank you, all that you do in the community of Parsippany. I've known you for many years, and you've always been up on the rise, always helping out, but more importantly, you're getting information out, and I appreciate that. You as well, Bonnie.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you so much.
so I'd say a few words. Yes.
Never against me.
I know that already.
But thank you, Mayor. I first want to just thank you, Mayor, and the council for the support that you've had in terms of the human relations type programs that we try to bring to Parsippany. But I want to also invite all of you who are here to this program. This is a non-sectarian program. It's taking place at the Dot Shalom right here in Parsippany, 6:30 p.m. You will see a documentary. It's just released publicly. It talks about how the city of Pittsburgh came together after the incident that the mayor was talking about just 5 years ago, a week ago, in Pittsburgh, how the community unites. What we're hoping to do is have people from all walks of life, from Parsippany, from all over Morris County, get together, stand together, and just stand up and say enough is enough, no more hate. We can all learn to be civil to one another and get back to our values. So thank you very much.
I just want to add, we have 21 co-sponsors right now, got 6 churches, we've got 6 temples, Seton Hall University, NAACP, the Diversity Coalition of Morris County, the Parsippany Interfaith Council, and many others. So this is not going to be a religious event. My shirt, Stronger Than Hate, has to do with what, with Tree of Life, and this was the shirt that came out as part of the, fighting against the event.
Not to get the last word, but I just want to tell you personally what a thrill it is for a father to be able to co-chair an event with his daughter and kind of keep the thing going in the next generation. So, thank you.
Is everybody,
Is that on the 12th? Where's that synagogue? Michael, where's that synagogue?
Okay, hold on, Council President. These chairs are...
We won't talk about the chairs.
Just want to get a drink. Okay. I'm going to read a short statement into the record with regards to pilot programs, which is in payment of lieu of taxes. Well, today I spoke with the tax assessor, and right now we have 3.4 million square feet of vacant office space in Parsippany. And we were talking with regards to the pilots and why they're so necessary in today's day and age. Well, with interest rates and construction costs rising, pilot agreements are needed to redevelopment of proposed sites here in Parsippany. When I campaigned for mayor, I promised the people of Parsippany that I would repurpose vacant office buildings, I know it's like, with productive uses that will generate tax revenue so that we can stabilize our property taxes in town. We are doing that, and it's good for Parsippany. As many of you are aware, and that's why you're here tonight, you received misinformation telling all of you to show up, attempting to demagogue issues of importance here in town. Tonight is merely an introduction of these ordinances. A presentation will be made on December 5th regarding these ordinances. But a no vote tonight means a few things. One, it means you're not open to even consider a vital economic tool that the legislators have provided municipalities to drive needed economic development. A no vote tonight is a vote in favor of keeping vacant, blighted buildings, which is bad for Parsippany. But it also sends a message to the real estate community that Parsippany is not open to economic development. That's wrong. You can't say you're for economic development and then vote against the measures that are necessary to create economic development. If we don't do this, I urge all Parsippany residents to hold on to your wallets because taxes will go through the roof. Now let me go off the cuff here with regards to some of the stuff that I like to bring up. 5 districts are here today. I got several phone calls saying, you know, they were called by a certain individual on this council or emailed with regards to the 5 districts not getting any taxes on these sites. Well, if you know how the pilot programs work, you do get tax money based on the proposed value of the land. Now, I spoke to an individual from District 6 today with regards to that. These pilot programs can also be negotiated with the 5 districts, which I will do. School tax, same thing. schools do get a certain proportion of tax on the value of the land. Let's talk about the library. The library gets its funding through what? It gets its funding through our ratables. The higher the ratable, the more money the library gets. The lower the ratable, the less money the library gets. That's based on a formula by the state and the county taxation, Board of Taxation. Okay? So, my point I'm trying to make is that there's going to be only several options here in town. We don't have to do these pilot programs, but these buildings will remain dormant, they'll be dark, and they will not be filled. We have met with many developers, my administration has met with many developers, that the way the interest rates are now, the way things are going, the cost of products, the cost of steel, the cost of all this stuff, they can't even build without having a pilot program. Now, back when I was mayor in 2017, the interest rates were low. So we didn't give pilot programs out at that time. We did on UPS, which was actually very good for the township. In 2000, I think 2021, 15, around 10 got a pilot program. But if the council doesn't want to do it, just be prepared. So next year and the years to come, taxes will be going up. We need to hire more police. We need to secure our emergency services in town. We need to do all those things. And the only way to do that is through what? Taxation. So if you decide, the council decides, which is only introduction tonight anyway, and you'll have the public hearing on December 5th, but if it decides not to do it, to just be prepared that all these sites will stay vacant, will remain dark. We've worked hard on these. I worked it out with the tax assessor, and I have to tell you, the tax assessor knows this town better than any of us. The office market is not going to pick up until 2035. 2035. Now, that is something that the town has to consider. Do we do pilots or not? And if you decide not to do a pilot program, I'm telling the residents here tonight, I'm telling the ones that are going to watch this, that your taxes are going to go through the roof, because what happens, there's no balance. The less commercial you have, what happens? Residential taxes go up. The more commercial you have, the pendulum starts to shift. So that's what the township's dealing with right now, and we're going to continue to deal with it. So just so you know, tonight is not a vote. Tonight is only a vote to introduce. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Township Council?
Yes, Council President, thank you. And I would like to offer a different opinion. For the record, I recognize that our significant amount of office property that is vacant is a serious problem. That is definitely a problem that we all need to be proactive about. However, what I object to is using a program that, the pilot program that has documented in many cases to have negative effects for taxpayers, negative effects for our first responders, and then obviously the large one is the impact on our schools. And I think that it's irresponsible of us to introduce something that sets it on a course to be approved when we don't even know what we're introducing. And for starters, and I had asked before the council meeting to get a sample of the two pilots that we currently have, which is at 1515 Stanberry, and then we also have one for UPS. This is how large these documents are. They're extensive. There's studies that are done to support whether or not there's a compelling community interest for those to be done. And we have 3 pilots on our agenda where right now we're being asked to make a decision to introduce things that will impact the community. And right now in Exhibit A, where the financial agreement is supposed to be, is completely blank. So I, as a councilman, I'm open to hearing the argument, but I can't make a decision to set something forward if we don't have any information. I can't be the only one that wasn't told that these things were coming our way, because I had no clue that we had 3 pilots that were set on a course for tonight's meeting conveniently after the election. And then beyond that, we also have the redevelopment plans for 6 Sylvan and 7 Campus. And I need to know if those are also going to be pilots, because these are going to have serious impacts that we need to have an open dialogue about. But my recommendation would be, and I'm hoping that we can work together on this tonight, to remove all of these pilots and redevelopment plans from the agenda, have the presentation, get the community input, listen to what independent experts have to say about 3 pilots before we set them on a course after first reading and then second reading to be approved. So, and it was lastly mentioned that our tax assessor has a favorable opinion about pilots, and I would be really interested to hear then why 4 years ago he wrote an extremely negative article coming strongly against pilots and their impact on municipalities. Perhaps at that next meeting he could explain what has changed in the last 4 years. But putting all of that aside, I'm open to solutions that are going to address this problem, but it's the government intervention and the principle of giving special benefits to developers that I object to. And I'd be open to hearing what my colleagues have to say. Thank you.
If I may answer the one question with regards, you're going to get the financials on Monday. You will have, on December 5th, that's why you have the public hearing for any members of the public to come up and ask any questions. The council will have more than enough time, in my opinion, to review those. With regards to the township tax assessor, of course, I know him very well. He wasn't favorable to pilots in the past, only because, you know, like I said, interest rates, construction costs were low back in 2017, 16 when we were considering pilots, 15 considering pilots. The fact of the matter is that now they're not. I can tell you for a fact or not, the interest rates are high, and I know just trying to bond in the town, interest rates are high. Well, it's the same that, you know, and you need to understand is the fact that developers cannot make more than 12% profit. Anything over the 12% profit, from what I understand, if I'm wrong, goes to the township. So when they want to say it's greed, it has to do with that. No, there's a criteria, there's formulas that have to be met, and not only does the developer have to meet it, which he does or she does or whoever owns the property has to meet those requirements. And I can tell you, I've met with many and I haven't got any. I mean, you know, you've been here how long, Justin? You never presented any commercial properties to anybody that wants to come here. I mean, it's a difficult environment right now, and we need to be in front of it, because it's not going to get any better. In fact, it's going to get worse. And if we don't retrofit these buildings and we don't do what we need to do, it's going to be tough to recover. And I can only tell you that through experience, through being mayor for 8 and going on the next 2. Right now, I'm in my 2nd year. I'm willing to work with you. And I'm willing to work with the entire council. You will get those financials, and in a little while, we're going to have the developer's attorney come up and explain these projects and to give better clarification to you, the residents of Parsippany.
Okay.
Just to respond when our esteemed councilman is talking about UPS and 1515, you weren't here then to hear those. UPS brought to Parsippany 400 high-tech people. That is their research and development to keep UPS on high-tech. So those 400 high-tech employees, many of whom were looking for homes in this area, and certainly shop in this area, was a benefit to the township. There were no school children, so it was totally uncomplicated. We brought UPS here with, not the trucks, with high-tech people. When we got to 1515, the exception there, the reason we agreed to a pilot there was because, as you know, Route 10 and Route 202 is a densely populated area. When they were going to develop 1515, if someone was getting off of 287 and wanted to go to that complex, or to the Delta Dental, or to the Octagon Building further up towards Route 10, they would have to go up Route 10, west on 10, make a double joggle handle turn, and come back down again, increasing the impact on that intersection. What we wanted to do with the 1515 development was to have a roundabout at the Dryden Way intersection, entering into that property, so that people that wanted to go to either 1515 or the Delta Dental Building or the Articon Building, they could go through Dryden Way, the underpass, and enter those buildings from the back, going towards Johnson Road. And that was actually deloading traffic on 202 and 10. The developer didn't want this. The township wanted this. We wanted to try to deload some of the traffic on 10 and 202. And that was the purpose of allowing that pilot. Even though the interest rates at that time were low, we did need it for that reason. But we wanted the developer to put that roundabout in for us, so we could take some traffic off of 10 and 202. You weren't here to hear those arguments at the time, but that's the reason we went for those at that time. Now with the construction, everything has gone up in cost. It's a different story. And before we get to the open session, we're going to ask their attorney to come up and explain what the pilot is and give us some idea. I don't think we should wait until the next meeting to talk about revenue. I think we should talk about that, what a pilot does for us now, tonight, while you are all here.
Anyone else from the council? Township Attorney, Mr. Lavery?
No report this evening, Council President.
Business Administrator, Mr. Cryan?
Thank you, Council President. Real quickly, just wanted to talk about the best practices, the best practice inventory that each municipality has to submit on a yearly basis. We completed it, CFO and myself, with substantial help from various department heads and division heads. We performed well, achieving a score of 36. Over 29 or under 29, we would have lost state aid. So it's a really good thing for the municipality to make sure that we are, doing the things that help us pass this. The best practices. They talk about ethics, they talk about personnel, budget, financial administration, and they go into different things like lead remediation and shared services and special improvement districts. So it's really a way for the state to put everybody on the same playing field, every municipality on the same playing field. Many of the questions have nothing to do with Parsippany, but some do. Some of the questions that they ask are forward-looking questions, kind of giving us a heads up of what's to come from Trenton, what requirements are going to come to us. And one of the questions that they asked was about PLAs, which is very interesting. And it's kudos to this council for being forward-thinking, like the County of Morris, being forward-thinking and passing that, because it's clear that DCA and local government services it's on their agenda, and they're going to be mandating that at some point in the near future. Happy Veterans Day to all of the veterans. Yep. Municipal building will be closed tomorrow in honor of Veterans Day. As you know, Veterans Day is the day we honor the services and sacrifices of all veterans. So tomorrow the offices will be closed. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Township offices, committees, reports? There's no correspondence. Bids taken. 1, 10/18/23, Route 46, water main replacement design, Phase 2. 2, 10/26/23, transportation and disposal of sewage, sludge, cake, and/or liquid sludge. There's none to be taken. Mr. Inglesino, would you please come forward? There's a few items on our agenda that perhaps you can talk about. Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
it works.
It's on.
For the record, John Inglesino, and I apologize for being a little out of uniform. You really never know where you're going to end up in the evening when you arrive at work in the morning. But I wanted to, been asked to kind of give a little bit of an overview with regard to the 2 or 3 projects that are on the agenda with regard to the introduction of a financial agreement ordinance. And I think the best way to do that, candidly, is just spend a very short period of time overviewing what pilots are, and then to discuss them in the context of each of the 2 projects. So, as has been indicated, pilot stands for payment in lieu of taxes. It's when a property owner makes payments to the municipality, usually based on annual gross revenue, or percentage of annual gross revenue from a project, in lieu of paying property taxes. However, as was alluded to earlier, the property owner still pays the land tax. Anybody who gets their tax bills know that they get taxed on their land and they get taxed on the improved. The land tax portion is still paid. However, the property owner in a pilot situation would get a credit from the tax payment, so that if, let's say, there was a 10% pilot, at the end of the year, they will have paid 10% of their annual gross revenue to the town. But that land tax payment gets distributed the way every ad valorem tax payment gets distributed in town. So somebody pays their land tax or any tax, probably roughly 27 or whatever it is percent goes to the municipality, 60 some odd percent to the schools, the fire district, the county, etc. So as a result of the pilot payment, 95% of the pilot payment goes to the town, 5% goes to the county. Now, of that 95% that goes to the town, which typically is a much larger amount than the town would ordinarily receive in ad valorem taxes, as the mayor alluded to, the town can do what it wants with that money. It can pay the fire districts, it can, whatever it wants to do. It's part of the general operating budget. But the school still gets its share of the land tax. Now, the payment distribution that I just described has, it's led folks to conclude incorrectly that pilot payments hurt the schools financially. We heard that this evening. That's just false. That is completely untrue. I've been reading this in letters to the editor. I've been reading it in generally, and it's just simply not true. When the school board passes a budget, the school board gets 100% every dollar that's passed in a school board budget. The municipality by law has to pay to the schools. There is no line item in the school board budget for uncollected taxes. All of that burden is on the municipality. So whether there's a pilot or whether there's not a pilot does not affect the schools one bit. They're getting every dollar that they've budgeted, and every dollar that they're budgeted has been approved for. So statements to the contrary are just simply wrong, and they're incorrect. As we like to say, people are entitled to their opinion, but not the facts, and can't make up the law. That's just the way it is. As the mayor alluded to, there are limitations, profit limitations on pilots. This is not designed to be corporate welfare. It's designed to provide municipalities with a tool under the New Jersey Housing and Redevelopment Law to be able to grow its rateable base and to provide assistance to projects that need the financial assistance to be successful. And given current economic climates today, and given actions of other municipalities, many of which engage in pilots on a fairly routine basis, frankly, for good commercial ratables, it's become a pretty competitive environment for municipalities to attract them. A couple of other points. Pilots are municipal liens collected just like any other taxes. So if somebody doesn't pay, the town still has the lien. And you can't file a tax appeal. When somebody has a financial agreement or a pilot, it's unlawful for them to file a tax appeal. And, you know, in a pilot, the better that the municipality does, or the better that the developer does, the better that the municipality does. Their interests are aligned because you're getting a percentage of the annual gross revenues. So if a business is bringing in more rents, if rents go up, then you're going to get more money as well because you're getting your percentage of the increase in rents. that a project would generate. So that's a little bit about pilots in general. Now, with regard to the three projects, there's really two that are related and the third, that are on for tonight. One is 249 Palmer. I think you all know this particular project very well because the council has already taken several actions under the New Jersey Housing and Redevelopment Law to proceed with this project. This is a project that is in an industrial area. It abuts 287. It's a large industrial building, not even vacant office. It's a large industrial building that was built, I believe, back in the 1960s as a printing operation. The business has become obsolete. The building is obsolete. It's completely vacant. The property owner, and trying to work with the town, has not filed a tax appeal, but certainly could in the future, because there is no prospect for the development or the occupancy of this particular building. So this council directed the planning board to conduct a study to determine whether the property was in need of redevelopment. The planning board authorized the planner to conduct that study, held a public hearing, and concluded that the property was in need of redevelopment. I want to read an excerpt from a letter that was part of the White Study record that was received by Jones Lang LaSalle, who, as many of you know, is one of the top real estate brokerage firms in the country. And here's what they had to say about this property. Taking into consideration the age, configuration, functional obsolescence, and overall physical condition of the building, we are of the opinion that this asset is obsolete in today's market. There's a lot more to the letter, but that sort of sums it up. So you have a building that's vacant that really has no prospect to be occupied. And so the council adopted a redevelopment plan. It was a redevelopment plan for a state-of-the-art warehouse and distribution center. I think when you go through the redevelopment process, there typically is an expectation that a pilot would be necessary to make, a deal pencil. And that's kind of where we are tonight for the introduction of a financial agreement that would help to complete the redevelopment process. We're putting, there's numbers together. The specifics of the financial analysis will be presented at the December 5th meeting. But suffice it to say, the municipality, it will show that the municipality is going to get a lot more money with the redevelopment of this building than it has today. It's going to create jobs. It's going to take a blighted piece of property and turn it into a really nice state-of-the-art productive business in a place that you have already determined it should go. The consequence of not moving forward with a financial agreement, and I have authority to say this from the client, the project's not going forward. The project's just not going forward. And you've heard me read the letter from Jones J. LaSalle. That project, that building will just sit there. And so that's, kind of what's at stake with regard to that project. The others involve 2 and 3 campus. 2 and 3 campus, and I saw in the organizational effort to get the meeting together tonight, it was multifamily housing and warehouse. These are not new projects. This is 2 and 3 campus are in Parsippany's affordable housing plan that was approved by the previous administration and a previous council. These were approved for a few hundred units of multifamily housing with affordable housing set aside. They were owned by Matt Calley, who received site plan approval. They're in the process of being sold to Avalon Bay. Avalon Bay came before the planning board and incidentally provided, I think, some significant benefits for the municipality, as the mayor and Councilman DePiero know, having been on the board. We actually reduced the affordable housing units by 31 units. Pretty significant reduction. But they retained the same number of affordable housing credits and did it with the consent of Fair Share Housing Center. And they did it by replacing those 31 affordable housing units with 31 supportive housing bedrooms. Supportive housing gets a credit based on the bedroom as opposed to the unit. And that project will now serve adults with disabilities and challenges, a segment of the population I think many folks understand is underserved. Will do so without nearly the impact on schools that otherwise comes from affordable units, and reduces the overall size of the project. So that's what's going on with 2 and 3 campus. Next door to 3 campus is 7 campus. I don't know why, but there's not a 5 campus. There's a 3 campus, and then there's a 7 campus. That is a large vacant office building. Exactly the kind of thing that there's no prospect for leasing up right now or for the foreseeable future. The owner of 3 campus has an easement across about an acre, 84 parking spaces on 7 campus. So the redevelopment potential for 7 campus is somewhat limited. It could be multifamily housing. As many of you know, although Parsippany settled its third-round case, Parsippany has a very large unmet need, which is going to come into play in July of 2025, about 16 or so months from now. So that's right around the corner. I think I've heard comments before that the town would like to kind of limit the number of locations that are available for large-scale multifamily housing in the future, and perhaps obtain good ratables now if the town can. So what the owner of 7 campus and Avalon Bay have agreed to do is that Avalon Bay has agreed to relinquish its easement rights so that, what's that?
Relinquish to the parking.
Right, relinquish the easement rights to the parking so that there's a larger area for redevelopment on 7 campus. The owner of 7 campus wants to move forward with an industrial project, which would be right next door to Avalon Bay. By the way, there's nothing else in the area. In fact, the council had commissioned the planning board to conduct a study on 7 campus. The planning board had the area in need of redevelopment meeting on Monday night and unanimously recommended that you declare 7 campus in need of redevelopment tonight. I believe that's on your resolution. So the win-win-win, as we see it here, is that Parsippany takes a piece of property off the roll, so to speak, as potential for multifamily housing. You get quickly a brand-new state-of-the-art industrial development, and Avalon Bay agrees to that, and in return, they get a pilot. So that's kind of the win-win-win. Avalon Bay gets some consideration for having the industrial next door. I can tell you that Avalon Bay and the owner of the industrial establishment next door have agreed on what that general plan is going to look like. Their planner right now is working with your planner to incorporate bulk standards into a redevelopment plan. And before you would be asked to vote on adoption of a financial agreement ordinance, you will have in hand a signed agreement between Avalon Bay and the owner of 7 campus that basically effectuates what I just said. So again, the thought was here that the benefit to Parsippany is you're taking out of play a significant piece of property for large-scale multifamily housing. You're getting a great rateable right away. And in return, Avalon Bay is getting a pilot for their part in this. And that was sort of the thought on a win-win-win, kind of situation.
And Avalon Bay gave us additional credits for affordable housing.
And what you got the same number of credits, but you reduced the number of units by 31, which is going to drastically reduce, the impact on town. I think you'll find that with a lot of these multifamily housing developments, the market rate units really don't produce a lot of school children. All the studies are showing that the school children are coming from the affordable units. I'm not saying that's a good thing or a bad thing, it's just those are what the facts are. So by reducing the number of family rental units, you are reducing the school children population that would be generated, but you're also providing housing for a very underserved segment of the population. And we thought that was a benefit as well. So that's sort of the big picture context of...
Okay, what I would ask for then is not to wait for the financial presentation you're talking about until our next meeting, but get it to us in advance, so council members and...
Oh, you'll have it early next week, by Monday.
Okay.
You'll have it early next week.
And that'll be made available to the public if they want a copy too.
Well, it'll be sent to you and you do with it what you want.
Okay.
Thank you, John.
Okay.
Are there any questions?
Yeah, I have a question. So, Mr. Inglesino, you've been a mayor a freeholder, and,
Go ahead, continue.
yeah, can I ask a question? And it's fair to say that you probably read everything that you voted on, correct?
No,
No? Okay. Well,
I couldn't possibly. I'm also a councilman.
right. Sorry, let's
as-
not forget
As
that.
mayors, we didn't vote, but as councilmen, as a freeholder,
But it's
we voted.
important, how would you, I'll get to my question. How would you feel the day after an election, getting 3 pilot agreements and not having any information on what to vote for?
Well, you're not voting for anything. You're voting to introduce an ordinance, and ordinance are routinely voted by title only. I know from my tenure here and also from my time in Rockaway Township, it is not only not uncommon, it is the law, that you don't have to have what's in the ordinance to vote to introduce. Well, all you're doing to vote to introduce is to advance the ordinance to the public hearing stage. And it's at the public hearing stage where you have the information, the public has the opportunity to speak, then that's where the vote occurs. The two-step process on the ordinance is just to advance to the public hearing. You're not voting on the substance of an ordinance. And I can tell you, during my tenure as a councilman, I had voted yes on introductions on certain ordinances and voted no at the substantive hearing, which is always an option as well. This just allows the process to move forward. That's what it is. That's why I'm not here tonight all dressed and have everything in, because this is usually the type of thing that would occur at the public hearing.
Well, the
stage.
other point that's relevant at this time is ordinances cannot be carried into a new year. So if we table this or postpone this introduction, then we wouldn't get to the second reading in this year, which we cannot do. The whole project would have to wait until 2024.
Well, and the Avalon project doesn't have, I can tell you, contractual timeframes in that one that would.
My point is, you can't carry an ordinance
Correct.
into another year.
Correct.
I understand it. It seems to me, if this is so good for the town, why are we rushing this? Doesn't it make sense to, before we introduce anything and set it on a path to be advanced, to have the studies done first, have the information that you intend to share next week, have that done first. Let's listen to what the community has to say and then, see where things go.
Well, the financial analysis, for example, on Pomeroy, it's not going to be very complicated. There's taxes that are being generated now. There's pilot revenues that are going to be anticipated. These are pretty cookie cutter pilots, right? There's different type of pilots. There's pretty sophisticated ones. UPS had a redevelopment area bond attached to it, which was complicated. I worked on that, so I know. I think 1515 had redevelopment area bond, and I think there was county bond financing involved in that as well, which makes for a much more complicated document. The ones that are being considered for this evening are pretty cookie cutter agreements. They're not complex agreements. The financial analysis is not going to be very complex either. The question on Pomeroy is, do you want the vacant building to stay or don't you? I mean, that's a decision you make. I'm telling you that that's what's going to happen. I read you the letter from JLL. The policy decision is yours as to whether or not you want a brand-new warehousing industrial facility that you've already said you want, or whether you want the status quo vacant building to stay. That's basically the choice on that one. And on the 2 and 3 campus, I just outlined and won't repeat it, kind of what the...
Those are not new
situation is
projects.
there.
Those are already part of our affordable housing commitment that was agreed to half a year ago.
So I guess then, how do we, from a principal point of view, how do we now in the future, if we give these 3 pilots, how do we start saying no to other developers or other landlords that are currently in the town that can also make compelling reasons why they should receive a special subsidy, a special incentive from us? How do we say no if we're about to embark on a course like
Sure.
this?
Well, these are all
We're
done.
not-
on-
we're not
I'm
setting the
asking
precedent.
John Inglesino the questions. He can answer the question.
So these are all done on a case-by-case basis. Just because you approve one doesn't mean that you have to approve all. In a lot of municipalities, particularly those that are trying to attract development, Woodbridge has been unbelievable. Mayor McCormick down there, what he's been able to do with financial agreements and redevelopment is incredible. He's, I think, kind of the gold standard in terms of the way he's utilized pilots. In a town that is not dissimilar, by the way, from Parsippany in a lot of ways. Large, a lot of highway access, a lot of opportunities for warehousing and manufacturing and things of that nature. I think you have to take them on a case-by-case basis. From a policy perspective, that's up to you. With regard to commercial development, very hard to see a lot of downside to pilots if they're necessary to attract quality ratables in appropriate areas, as opposed to what you have now. In terms of residential, again, a policy decision. I've seen a lot of municipalities say generally no in that regard, unless there's some other benefit that is some other unique benefit that the town is deriving, which I've tried to outline to you here. Then it's a different story. I mean, I represent towns where I'm on the municipal side, where in some instances pilots are granted, in some instances, they're not. So you're not setting a precedent in terms of things that you have to do. You're taking them on a case-by-case basis. But I can tell you that generally speaking, in terms of warehouse, manufacturing, distribution, that kind of a marketplace, a lot of developers won't do deals unless there's pilots attached to them now. That market has changed, capital markets have tightened, interest rates have gone up, and, municipalities kind of have to weigh, the giving of a pilot versus sort of vacant, dilapidated space. And it's a competitive market out there.
My last question would be, eventually we all won't be on the council. There will be new administrations, elected officials come and go. I've heard instances where a pilot is negotiated under a previous administration, new administration comes in, that money is fungible, and that elected official can say, sorry, fire district, we're not giving you your portion of the money, or the school board doesn't get their portion of the money. So what guarantees do the interested parties, the school board or fire districts, have that down the line, somebody can't just come in and rearrange the way the money is funded?
Well, that depends on how you handle it. If you decide, for example, with regard to the fire districts, if you decide to enter into an agreement with the fire district, then presumably the fire districts would have an enforceable agreement that they would be able to rely upon like any other third party that has an agreement with the municipality. But that's up to you. I'm just saying that there are ways, legally, there are ways to structure those relationships that will provide those long-term guarantees if that's what the municipality elects to do.
Thank you, Mr. Inglesino.
Just if I may, go ahead, Paul.
No, you sure?
No,
Okay. I'd just like to say a couple things. I mean, probably most of the people in this room know that Mr. Inglesino and I haven't always seen eye to eye. But the things that you've said tonight, to me, make a lot of sense. There was the rumor that the school board, and you said that the school would still get their money regardless.
The school gets every dime that the school board approves a budget. They are guaranteed every nickel that's been approved in their budget, whether there's a pilot, whether there's not a pilot, whether a property owner pays its taxes or whether a property owner doesn't pay its taxes. The school gets paid.
Okay. Excuse me, you also said about the fire districts set their money, and then if there was any other monies that they would not receive because of the pilot, that we could approve that they would just get that money.
Absolutely.
Right. For many reasons, now, like you said, we're just introducing this tonight to move forward. I mean, you've brought up a lot of good things. The Pomeroy, it's a vacant building. We're getting hardly any money for that right now, and no one, the study's been done, no one's gonna wanna go there. So we can get a warehouse and start getting revenue immediately off of that. That's one thing. With the Avalon Bay, we're going to get a reduction in size, which is a reduction in services that we need to provide to that establishment, but we're still getting our affordable housing credits
Yes, you are.
for that. 7 Campus, now that area, that property comes off the market as far as potential in the future for more apartments, more strain on the schools, more strain on the town services.
That's correct.
And it becomes an industrial building, which again creates revenue towards the town, which
That's
then helps every resident. As the mayor said, when that revenue goes up, taxes for the individuals and the residents goes down. Me personally, I don't have a problem with this just moving forward. This is just an introduction tonight, as you said. I would like that, once we get this information on Monday, if the clerk could make it available to the public so that you as well would have a couple weeks to look that over so that you'd be educated to when you come to that meeting on December 5th, you would have that information as well, just like we would, so you'd be able to see that. I also know, I was contacted today by many firemen, by some EMS people. The EMS budget, we give you your money, which Councilman Musella wanted to vote down and decrease. We actually increased the money that we gave you. No, not you. I'm talking to Jen. Where he voted, he wanted to cut it. Actually gave you more money. So that your money's fine. So I know that was being spread out that EMS was going to lose money. I don't know where that was coming from, but that's not true. The fire, I've been a big supporter of fire. My father's almost a 50-year volunteer fireman, life member in town. So have the utmost respect for our volunteers in this town. Would never want to see that cut. So I can guarantee you that I would be in support of whatever. If there was anything that you were going to lose, you would get from us. Same thing with the schools. If there was a chance, but you're saying that they're going to get the money regardless. But if there was any additional, I would suggest to the administration that we work with the school board and that be evened out as well. So I know we have some members of the school board here. But in moving this forward tonight, I don't see there's anything wrong with this, especially with all the benefits that you've stated that we're going to get from this. And we're going to see these empty buildings and revenue starting to come in as soon as they're done. So I don't see any problem with that moving forward.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Mr. Inglesino, thank you very much for the education on pilot programs. I learned a lot about them tonight, contrary to what I had thought prior. And me being a former school board member, one of the biggest questions I had is, well, the school board's not going to get their funding. And I've been assured by both the mayor and you that they get the assessed value of the land, so they do indeed get their funding. And that was a big concern of mine. As far as all the vacant office space and the vacant part of the buildings, I mean, everything that's vacant, getting it all out there and built, this brings the more rateables. And I know we have an affordable housing criteria we have to meet. And I know, I like what you said also, that 31 less affordable housing, and that's 31 less housing that would bring a lot of school-age children. I know we're obligated to build affordable housing, so I think that's a win-win for us both also. So I thank you for your explanation on everything. You definitely gave me a different impression of what I thought pilot programs were. Thank you.
And there's one more clarification I'd like to make, because I know the school board's been brought up several times. When there's a tax appeal in the town and we lose that tax appeal, do we get any reimbursement from the schools?
No.
No. So,
The municipality bears the
the
burden.
township sucks on a whole. That's my point about rateables decreasing. When rateables decrease, that we still got to make the difference up on tax appeals, and that's what's going to happen if these buildings stay blight. You're going to have tax appeals. We have them now. We have tax appeals now on buildings that just have to be retrofitted. So if we don't retrofit these buildings and we don't do what we're going to do here, you're going to have tax appeals. I can tell you right now, we're going to have them. And then our tax assessors, there's never really much you can do because they've already been viewed as blighted. They've been viewed as, it's never going to be filled if we don't do something like this, which means you're going to see tax appeals on all these properties.
Anyone else, Mr. Pierre?
No.
Thank you very much, John. Thank you. Mr. Mann, before I ask for a motion, please make a statement regarding the public session, please.
Yes, Council President, public session will begin after the motion. We ask that you please come up one at a time. You state your name and sign on the sign-in sheet. You will have 5 minutes to speak. With that 5 minutes, I recommend to the council that you allow the residents to speak for the full 5 minutes, and then after, if you would like to respond, you then respond. This should not be a back and forth. That's all I have, council. Thank you.
And also, we're asking you to please sit down after you've made your statement. Thank you. I'd like to entertain a motion to open the public session, please.
Make a
motion.
Second?
Motion made by Mr. Karifi, seconded by Mr. Neglia. Roll call, Mr. Karifi?
Yes.
Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Mr. Musella?
Yes.
Mr. Neglia?
Yes.
Ms. Grignani?
Yes.
Okay, motion passes. The floor is open to the public to speak on any matter.
Hi, everybody. Hi, my name is Deborah Nemirovich. Been before you before. Okay, so if I stand before you.
Mr. Marovich, if you could please speak just into the mic. Thank you.
What? Oh, is it even on?
Yes.
Test.
There you go.
Whoa. I stand before you today not just as a resident of this community, but as someone who feels strongly concerned that our town is being sold out to developers. I speak from my heart, and my words are fueled with genuine concern for the future of this town, which is our town. I was surprised to hear that the mayor is back to doing the bidding of special interest groups like developers by giving them a tax break. I thought he learned from the PLA experience how wrong it is to put the special interest ahead of what's in the best interest of the town he grew up in. I'm not going to stay silent when it appears that with all the development going on, 18% tax increase in the last 2 years, that there's a promise of a tax break for developers. Like many of you, I choose to make Parsippany my home. And that's because of its promise, a promise of a community that cares for its residents, a community where everyone has a fair shot at a good life. However, that promise feels threatening today, and as I speak, I'm grappling with the everyday challenge of making ends meet, and the mayor's massive tax hikes have only made it harder for me. Bills pile up, and the prospect of an additional financial burden while developers enjoy a tax break is disheartening. I hope you all will not vote for any pilots. I'd like to thank Councilman Justin Musella for being the lone voice of, again, being on the right side of the town. I thank God every single day that we have him as our councilman, because since I've been here, he's the best thing to happen to Parsippany in a very long time. I appreciate to everyone listening to me again, and I will sit down. I'm still in a healing process, medical. I'll be able to stay a few more minutes, but then I will leave. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Can I respond?
Yes, please, Mayor, respond.
Okay, yes, I need to respond, and only because for several reasons, with regards to talk about the 18%. Deb, I don't know if you came to the budget meetings in 2022, because I don't think you did. I didn't see you there.
Yeah, I did.
Okay, well, you're making comments that truly are off. You can't question my heart in this town. You hit it on the head. I grew up here. I've been here since I'm 4 years old. And you can praise the councilman over there all you want. But I came here $8.5 million in the hole. I left it with $23 million in surplus. When I got here with $8.5 million in the hole, what did you expect the town to do? So what we needed to do, and the only way we could do it, is we needed to lay off 130 DPW workers, 9 police officers, which we couldn't do because we were at 81 deployable at the time. Residents come up and they complain about the safety and public safety in their town. So if you bring that down, 81, another 9 or 10, you're down to 71, okay? Close the community center down. That was an option, okay? All these things were an option. I had to make up for the amount of money from 2018 all the way to 2021 that was depleted from all the utilities. More importantly, from the current fund. Now, what that means is we had $7 million in the current fund for surplus. When I was running in 21, from what I understand, it was only 628. We had no emergency monies whatsoever left. Now, I could have done the easy thing and said, all right, council, we're going to lay everybody off. You'd have no services, nothing whatsoever. You weren't even here for the meetings this year when it came to the budget. When the township auditor said the township is back to financial stability, it's gone in the right direction. Why is that? Because tough decisions had to be made. The 14.63% increase in 2022 was the budget levy. There's a difference between tax rate and levy. Okay, the tax levy is the amount the budget increases from one year to the other. The tax rate was 3.2, 3.5%. That's what taxes went up. They didn't go up 14.63. That's just the difference between the budget. That's what happened there. But you can never question my integrity in this town. I love this town. I've been here for a long time. We don't have to do the pilot programs. We don't have to do them. But if we don't do them, your taxes are going to go up skyrocket because they're going to get tax appeals. I can tell you right now, they're going to come for tax appeals. And when that's said and done, those blighted buildings are going to get worse, worse, and worse. So sometimes leaders have to make tough decisions that you might not like. I don't like, you think I wanted to raise them 14.63%? Absolutely not. But what happened was, it gets political. It doesn't get common sense. It gets political. Why? Because people are looking into the future, or possibly maybe running it against me. But it gets political. It's not common sense or anything like that. I got to do what's right for the town, and that's what I did. And going into next year, and we get these pilot programs, I guarantee you, and on my opinion, I should say, I can't guarantee nothing, and you never can in life. Our tax rates are going to start to stable. You talk about 24 and going into 25. We're looking at an additional, from what I understand, $6 million in revenue due to the fact that our ratables are going to increase. So I do thank you for your back and forth, but, you know, but thank you, Debbie.
For medical reasons, I wasn't able to attend. Thank you.
Okay.
No back and forth.
Do we have anyone else?
Thank you for your comment.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have anyone else like to speak?
Hello, Susie Golderer, 187 Vale Road. I didn't have the, pleasure of being raised in this town. I've been here for 28 years, and I've made it my town, and I've always loved it. I believe that, I'm not here, and I don't ever plan on running against you as mayor, so it's not politics, okay?
Feel free if you want to.
You know, well, nothing I want to
please,
do. I'm
Susie.
just saying so that you don't think that what I'm going to say is, you know, in any way politics. But, okay, you grew up in this town. You know, I always felt that Mr. DiPiero loved this town enough, and I always felt protected when he was, you know, in office, and I always supported his, you know, candidacy, and the fact that previously he was on the board and Mr. Neglia has been on the board, and that it's okay to say, first of all, it is not accurate in where they say that, and I'm not speaking, and yes, I have knowledge because I am currently a board member, the school board member, but I am here today to speak as a citizen, as a person who owns a house here in Parsippany. And what I'm saying is, it is not accurate when it is said that the school gets all their money. Yes, we get all our money. But Mr. Neglia knows that a study was done, and if you add 2,000 children to our school district, it's going to affect us because none of you have negotiated any money to build new school buildings. Where do you think that money is going to come from? Where do you think that not only the building, but also the furniture in the building and the teachers for the building? So you making it seem like, it's not, you guys are going to get your money. No, they don't get their money because they're going to have to go and put forward a referendum for over $100 million to build a couple of schools for any housing being built. And then you say it's like, keep it affordable? Really? My son could not buy a house here in Parsippany. He had $400,000 and didn't have. Why? Because then you have houses that are going for $7, $8, $1 million, and who can, it's like this town has been known for people coming back and raising, after being raised here, they raise their families, and who could come back at these prices? Everybody's going out to Sussex County because they can't afford this anymore. And you got, you talk about, if we didn't raise the taxes, then, the police department, and believe me, I support all of that. It's like that, the taxes is not what upsets me. The fact that you're not open, you're not transparent. You should have had, the fact that you had a council member that was not aware of what was going on is wrong. Why? Because, well, you know what? Whether he's going to run for mayor later on against you or whatever, I know you don't care. You say you don't care, but you do, okay? Because you attack him every chance you get. But the only thing I'm saying, okay, is that if you concentrate all of the time that you spend criticizing him, if you concentrate on being the best mayor that we have, then you don't have anything to worry about. Because it's about the actions, not about what is being said. And the fact that you're letting 3 pilot programs come in without having negotiated any money towards building school buildings, and you know that, okay? And shame on you guys for trying to lie to the public by saying, oh, the school board gets their money. Yes, we get every penny. And 10 cents of that penny, of those dollars, go into the classroom, unfortunately, because 70% goes to salaries and benefits for all the staff. But don't, don't lie to the people that way with the truth.
Please, thank you. Anyone else?
If I may, Mrs. Golder, maybe you weren't listening to Mr. Inglesino when he spoke. You said about 2,000 school children. The Pomeroy location right now is a vacant, but you said is a vacant building that is going to be a warehouse, which brings in no revenue right now and has been deemed that no one would want to go there. So either we build a warehouse there and start collecting revenue right away, or you may have a developer eventually want to come in and build more apartments, more school children. 7 Campus, the builder at Avalon, is making it a smaller project. We're getting the credits. 7 Campus is going to be an industrial building. If they don't get the pilot, if they don't go there and get that industrial building, he said it. You'll get another developer will come in the next round and say, hey, I want to build 500 apartments there, and you're going to get more school children. So I guess you didn't listen to what he said. So we're filling these areas with warehouses bringing in revenue, which we're not getting right now, and there's no school children coming in there.
No,
Coming in there.
Please, please. Someone else would like to speak? Thank you.
I'll just bend down. Richard Suarez, Parsippany. Before I came here, I didn't know the scope of the projects because unfortunately, this came out of the blue. This should have been public knowledge for a long time prior to this meeting. And I'm disappointed in everyone that it wasn't. There's no need for this. I mean, the residents are the heart and soul of this community. Why are we being left out? Why are we always in the dark? Why are we always the last to find out? The Township of Belleville, which I'll give to anybody who wants to look at this. Prior to issuing any pilots, put out on their website, doesn't cost you anything, you're not mailing it, put it on the website of what a pilot is. And it breaks it down, the pros, the cons, what the legalese is. This would be of interest and benefit to everyone in the town. Why don't we get it? Why are we always the last to find out? And I agree, for this to drop from the sky 2 days after an election is so transparent. Please, you know, please don't ask me to believe that this just happened. I don't believe it. Okay, I just don't. Lastly, the percentage that the school will get is on the land. Am I right? It's on the land. It's not on the property, right?
Right, absolutely.
Okay, so on average, average, what would the school board get on those properties? You already have what the tax numbers are now, as far as the land and the structure. So at the present time, with the 10%, what would the school board get, keeping in mind that 63% of our property tax bill goes to the school board? So if they're only going to get 63% of this rather than 63% of this, that's a lot of money that someone's going to have to make up. With that said, as you know, as far as the warehouses go, maybe it's a good thing. You know, the gentleman made a lot of good points. You made a lot of good points. You made a lot of good points. But the whole thing is, we're getting all of this information thrown at us at the last minute. All of this should have been transparent, and it's not. And you know what? It's a damn shame that it's not transparent. Communication, folks, is the key. When people are left in the dark, people figure, you know what? Something doesn't smell right here. So if you want it to smell right, put it out there, let everybody see, and I agree. We should not be saying, oh, okay, we're going to move forward until we have numbers. And when those numbers come out, and when you people get them, they should be on the town website. So everybody, not just you, everybody gets to see what those numbers are. That's why we have elections. We put you there. You're supposed to be serving us. You want to serve us? Give us the lowdown. Thank you.
Did you sign in, sir? Yeah.
Council President, I'd like to
Yes.
respond. First and foremost, Mr. Suarez, I appreciate your comments, but these projects have been on the agenda. they had to be voted on by the council for approval of redevelopment. These projects have been going through for many months. They've been there, and they've been voted on by the entire council. They recommended to the planning board to do the need of redevelopment. So what happens with need of redevelopment, which, because you seem to know, which is, I respect, but the fact is, you can't say the council hit it. They didn't. It was on the agendas. It was discussed. So with that being said,
Please.
with that being said, that's not true that you were left in the dark.
Please.
In my particular situation, I have a
Mr.
family
Suarez, I'm
issue
sorry.
that I can't come here all the time.
You know what? You and I could talk offline because I respect you a lot. You're a good man. So
Thank you, we appreciate.
not that other people aren't good. You're good too. So.
Thank you, Mayor. Anyone else care to speak?
Hi, Judy Hernandez. Thank you. Loretta, it must be difficult when we have all the people coming up.
No, we try our best.
So, yes, I also do wonder about the timing of these applications. I'm glad I got clarity on 2 and 3 because I was on the planning board when we did approve that and I was wondering what was going on. People in the town are concerned when they hear in need of redevelopment. They were concerned when it was Stanbury in 2014, and then they were concerned with the pilot then. I know times have changed, and I think it's great that Mr. Inglesino explained about, 31 less units in 2 and 3. However, and Mr. Karifi, you live where we live. You know how we're concerned about that area. And I'm glad 7 might not be a residential area, but an industrial area. But then I think, okay, people are living in 2 and 3, and then 7's right next to it. My comments are, why aren't we talking about this in the environmental aspect? We never do when it comes to applications. We're not talking about how it's affecting the infrastructure, water, traffic, which is going to be intolerable, and also, yes, the schools, because while the municipality wants to help their budget, I understand that, the schools have their budget, and most of our taxes are the school budget. And that goes up. And if there's more children, that goes up. And if they're not getting the money, even if they're not as much children, it's still a burden for us. 65%, I would say, of our taxes are school budget. So, Mr. Neglia, you know that it does have some impact. And Avalon, Mr. Inglesino, I thank you for explaining all this, but you're doing this here, you're doing it in Montville and other places as well. So people do wonder and they question what's going on. And we've seen these deals before in Parsippany. It's the same movie. It's just happening with different people playing different roles. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Sure, if I may, real quick, I think what some people are forgetting is the 2 and 3 campus have already been designated for the fair share housing. So that part of it, we were getting, regardless of a pilot, no pilot, we were getting the apartments there, whether we got the pilot or not. So that's coming in, whether we like it or not. Unfortunately, I'm sure most of you know, we got this basically shoved down our throats, just like every other town with the affordable housing. Nobody wants it, but unfortunately, we're stuck with it.
And if I may, Councilor, I know.
Surely.
I'm a little winded tonight, but there's a reason
That's
for
okay.
it. In the 4 years, last 4 years, before my administration, 3,332 units were approved here in Parsippany. Wasn't my administration that approved them, 3,332 units. But here's the fact of the matter. It was brought up by one of the individuals that came up here to speak. We have to follow the Mount Laurel. We have to follow all the affordable housing rules. And it pretty much handcuffs our planning board and our zoning board, as you know. These 3,332 units, which are starting to be built now, really wasn't much choice. You really didn't have much of a choice but to approve them. Why? Because builders have remedy when it comes to affordable housing.
It was mandated by the court.
Right. It's mandated by the courts. And every time, someone comes up, they say, stop it. You need to stop it. Well, we do try to stop it, but guess what? Builders have remedy. And if we don't approve these projects, they go to court and we lose. And we lose in a really bad way, and they can even get more units. We lose our ability for zoning, we lose our ability for planning. So with that being said, I know everyone's frustrated with all this new building that's happening in Parsippany, and the fact of the matter is that it really couldn't be stopped. I know Judy was on the planning board at the time, and I know everybody thinks they can stop it. Feel free to be on the planning board, and when you find out you can't, and it's frustrating. It's frustrating for the mayor, for the council, it's frustrating for the planning and zoning boards. But they gotta follow a criteria that is set by the Supreme Court. Because in March 10th of 2015, the Supreme Court came out with a decision. Why? Because the legislators couldn't make a decision on affordable housing. So they made a decision for them. And now the Township of Parsippany, Montville, all surrounding towns, I know they're gonna move to Sussex County, I hear that, guess what? We're gonna get hit with it too. Because the next round in 2025 that comes is gonna be worse than the fourth round that we just, the third round that we just had. So you need to understand that. It's not that we want to approve these sites, it's that we cannot. Perfect example is land index. If any site that you thought you could not approve would be land index, why? Because of off-site traffic. But guess what? The law is on affordable housing, the only thing you could deny is on-site traffic, not off-site traffic. You can't deny it due to schools. You can't, school-aged children, you can't deny it due to the traffic. So our hands are tied. Everybody wants to come up and say, I'm gonna stop development. Good luck. You can only curb it. I've had several companies come here that wanted to do housing. I wasn't in favor of it. Some went to warehousing instead. And that's a fact. That's what happened. So when you come up here and say, you know, we're not doing our jobs, we are doing our jobs, and we're doing what we can the best, but our hands are tied on the planning and zoning board when it comes to housing.
Anyone else like to speak?
Yes, thank you. Good evening, and thank you for all your parts.
State your name, please.
Sorry, Alicia DiGiovanni. I live in Rainbow Lakes community. I haven't been here because of health reasons, but I have been informed, and I do try to keep the snuff. We are living in a challenging time, and I had written something, and it's just, I'm actually still trying to process the beginning and where we are right now, even tonight. I think we all have to look at ourselves and look in the mirror without the point of having power on our shoulder. Power is an illusion. Corruption is the truth. And what is going on here, we all are part of this fabric of Parsippany. We start out with the proclamation of civil. What I have seen in some of this is a disgrace. And it's a disgrace even me not being as involved in this town to see what's going on. Because I pay taxes and I deal with a lot of bullshit. Living next door, what's going on Rainbow Lakes, which I asked, and that's another addition. But right now, you give a gentleman a proclamation about civil, that is just a bunch of bullshit.
Please watch your mouth.
I'm sorry.
Please watch your language.
I'm sorry. But where I am right here, my point is this.
Okay, but no cursing,
Development, I
please.
apologize. I just feel that we need to work together. We are all gifted with certain attributes to work together for Parsippany. People have different points, and it's a great thing. I am from education in the past, not from this area in teaching. And I've done all walks of life with education. We have to think about what we want to do in development. All these people are fabrics of what's going on, and I'm not going to reiterate what we have to do. They're all excellent points. Where's the stats? We are living in a challenging time of figuring how we're going to recover with COVID. Prices are going up. I can't even afford where I am through the bullshit that the French that I have to deal with the problems at Rainbow Lakes. I'm finding they get a tax cut. Rainbow Lakes people, because they're on the view tax. How many other taxes that we don't know they're getting tax cuts? I found out that for a situation that I'm dealing with over there, which I've asked the mayor many times to assist, and I have not gotten any emails back from your action line. I have offered to assist the mayor. I've also to assist certain people in this town if they need help. I can do what I can do. But what I am concerned, we all have different opinions, but that's what makes a great community. I'm not saying to have a kumbaya, I'm just saying be open, put the power hat down, and think about what is wise for our community, okay? Yes, you walked in with a lot of stuff. Anybody who's in power, if you want to give it that word, walks in with problems that we don't know. It's done. Do it. Move forward. That's what military does. We are living in a point right now in a military standing. Work together. You don't say, oh, I'm not doing that because that's point of finger. It's not about that. Let's really put our hat down, work together, listen, get some statistics. We're all concerned about increases taxes because we're just making ends meet. I can say every person here, I felt a fiber in my heart of what is going on here. We're all connected, but we're disconnected up here. And I'm really appalled to see that you're giving this proclamation in civil. And maybe you got to sit down, put that hat down. We all have to sit down on how we're acting. And my apologies for my tongue. But I'm tired of writing letters to the mayor. Please answer. You can't, then at least have the courtesy for a taxpayer to say, I'll get back to you. You've got a lot on your plate now, I'm seeing. And I'm sorry, but that's what a mayor does. You choose it. You can't keep on saying, oh, this person did that, that person did that. We all make mistakes, but you got to move forward.
Ma'am, you have 30 seconds.
Thank you. As I said, we all have to look at ourselves. I have to look at myself deeply in the mirror and how I have to try to do more where I can with all my conditions and still trying to find out how I can deal with what I'm dealing with Rainbow Lakes and some of the corruption that I am seeing that's going on involved. But right now, I am concerned about taxes because I'm already on a very tight budget and I am disabled. So let's really work together instead of pointing fingers. Get the information, become educated.
Ma'am, your time is up.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for being here.
Real quick,
Anyone else?
just real quick, this is it. First, I don't remember getting any emails, but that's beside the point. The good news is this: I spoke to several residents in Rainbow Lakes. I'm going to be doing a town hall at Rainbow Lakes with regards to many issues that they have at Rainbow Lakes. Just so you know, I'll be there. We're just going to set up a time and date to have a town hall. The administration will be there. I'll be there. Traffic engineer will be there. Our engineer, our traffic police officers, business administrator. I'll have every department head there. Anybody in Rainbow Lakes can ask any questions you want. We did this in Mount Tabor. It was really productive. It was a good conversation we had back and forth. So we'll have dialogue.
And what day is this? I'm sorry.
We don't know yet. We'll get a day, and then the members in your area will give the dates to you.
Yes, I think that's imperative because there is a civil situation.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sir?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Kenneth Malmud, M-A-L-M-U-D, resident of Parsippany. And I will say I do not envy any of you your decision process. And I think one of you said that you got an education on pilots tonight. And I think you can imagine if from your knowledge base you got an education today, what was happening to us as voters. But I will say a few things that I've been listening to and I hope are addressed as this process goes forward, if it goes forward. Firstly, I heard that if this doesn't pass today on a first reading, it can't be done this year. If this is such a good idea, what's the rush in getting it done by December 31st? Won't it be a good idea on January 2nd? That's a question. Another thing, you've been talking about how I think it's 3 and 5 Campus Drive will solve the problem with 7 Campus Drive. Do you have any knowledge that the owner of 7 won't come back for a pilot? I don't know. I hope you guys do. I've also heard it say that the Board of Education gets their money no matter what, and any losses fall on the town. You've got it wrong. Any losses fall on the town taxpayers, which is us. And the last thing I will say is, I think, Mr. Mayor, you started out by saying, don't worry about it. Yeah, if they make more than 12%, it'll come back to the town. All of us out here would love to sign up for that deal. 12% we keep. Okay.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else like to come up and speak?
Just real quick, Mr. Malmet, I didn't say the town, if we don't do these pilot permit, it does go on the residents. I did say that. I'm sorry, and it would go on the residents. You're absolutely correct. So, and that's what we're trying to avoid.
No, I'm not talking about that, Mr. Mayor. I'm talking about when you said that at the beginning, if these companies make more than 12%, it comes back to the town.
Right.
And if it doesn't, that's what falls on the taxpayers.
No, there's an agreement in place. They have to pay a certain amount each year. It's based on, and the financials will be out on Monday, and it'll explain it even better.
Helpful if it was out before tonight.
Mr. Malmet was speaking because his time was not up. That's why he was allowed, that's why he was speaking a few more minutes. Anyone else like to get up and speak, please?
I gotta sit down. My name is Patrick T.V. Antonio, 870 Tabor Road. Actually, I've grown up in this town, and my family moved here in 1958. So I've seen the transformation of this town over 65 years. I heard what you said, Mr. Mayor, about lawsuits and things like that. I'm well aware of some of those things. I know Cranford challenged the state, Hohokus challenged, and other towns also challenged, and they all lost. The state of New Jersey doesn't care how you meet your affordable housing or low-income housing or high-density housing, however you want to characterize it. They don't care. I think you and I would probably agree with that. Somebody has to care. And that needs to be done on a local level. Now, I've seen this town probably at least double in population since I was a boy. The planning has been horrific. And one of my concerns is we don't go down the same road that got us in this predicament in the first place. You know, we're the office building capital of the world, it seems like. All these things were built in the 80s. And now we're dealing with, some of the problems. And I don't want to see problems from these new developments escalate and manifest themselves in the same manner that prior things have. I think we're probably all in agree with that. I think I reasonably say that. I'm not going to rehash everything else that's been said here today. Some of those concerns I echo, and they've already been said, so I'm going to leave it at that. But, when we talk about the number of people in this town, you got 25 square miles, got like 58,000 people. And when you deduct the non-buildable areas like Troy Meadows, the Knoll, the Jersey City Reservoir, you're close to 3,000 people per square mile. Think about that number. The only towns in Morris County that come close to that, or might exceed it a little bit, are Morristown, Dover, Victory Gardens, and Necon, all of which are under 3 square miles. And yet in Parsippany, we got 25 square miles, we got the same number. Think about that. It's like a city. Somewhere you got to pull the plug and say, enough is enough. Now, I know it's not an easy decision, and things need to be done in a thoughtful manner. I understand that. I'm part of I worked I'm an architect. I worked as a building project manager. I bid projects up to $200 million. I know what things cost. I've done this all my life. So, when we talk about this pilot program, yeah, I do have an issue with that. Because ultimately, the developer wins out. They pay less money, and all the residuals and things like school money get transferred to the residents of the town. And that results in higher taxes. There's no question about it. Me and Frank went through this in messages in the last couple of days, right, Frank? And you've agreed with me. And I'm not going to belabor the point here, and I'm not going to go on a riot act here. But I do want to say something here. And this is something that comes out, and it has to do with the pilot program. And this is something that was written in Parsippany Focus back a couple of years ago, when I guess it's the 1515 project on Route 10. Did I get the number right?
Yes.
I'm not sure.
Yes.
Let me just read this, and then I'll just conclude with this. The main need for pilot, payment in lieu of taxes, is for road improvements. If it were not for road improvements, to keep a lot of the traffic at the very end of Parsippany towards Hanover area, that way off of Route 202, the developer would not need a pilot. So that was the criteria that this one person used. And the main reason for the pilot is for $6.5 to $7 million worth of road improvements. And he goes on to say, I will say that in no way, shape, or form serves as a precedent. And I emphasize the word precedent.
Sir, your time is
For
up.
pilot programs
Sir, your time
from
is up.
other developers.
Your time is up, sir. Thank you.
I said I was finishing.
Thank you. Anyone else like to come up and speak?
That was said by one of these council members.
Bob Venezia, Parsippany. About 6 weeks ago, I heard a rumor that the office to apartment projects at 2 and 3 Campus Drive would be applying for a payment in lieu of taxes or pilot agreement, and that announcement would be deliberately withheld until the general election so that it would not become a campaign issue. As evidenced by tonight's pilot ordinances, the rumor was right on the money. Parsippany has already had one experience with residential pilots, and that's Stanbury, and the final result was a disaster. The current mayor and 2 of the current council members were not in office during the final Stanbury deliberations. So for your benefit, and as a reminder to the 3 council members who were present, I'd like to start off with a little history and then review some of the things that we learned about residential pilots. After all of the discussion about the pilot agreement for the Stanbury project had been completed, the administration, the council, and the public finally realized that the Township of Parsippany had been taken advantage of. However, to everyone's great disappointment, the council reluctantly approved the pilot by a 4-to-1 margin. The 4 council members voting yes made it clear that they did not vote for approval on the merits of the agreement, but rather out of fear of litigation. The only positive thing that came out of this fiasco was that the business manager at the time, Keith Kasmark, announced publicly at the February 19th, 2019 Town Council meeting that the administration and the council attended a meeting where developers were explicitly told that pilots would no longer be considered for residential properties in Parsippany. Pilots are drafted by the developer's attorney, and every complex clause contained in the pilot is designed to reduce the developer's property taxes as much as the township will bear, usually 50% or more. In the case of Stanbury, Parsippany would have received over $60 million more in tax revenue over a 30-year period if the property were assessed according to conventional means. We also found out during the Stanbury negotiations that the terms of the pilot are constructed to achieve a certain profit margin or above for the developer, and that Parsippany is expected to agree to those terms that will guarantee that profit margin. On several occasions, Parsippany asked for a certain clause to be modified and was rebuffed because it would reduce the developer's profit margin to an unacceptable level. Another thing we learned is that the developer does not accept any degree of risk in the pilot. Who can forget the council meeting where Parsippany proposed a change to the pilot and the developer's spokesman openly stated that they will not accept any conditions that involve potential risk? I thought Councilmember Karifi wanted to strangle the guy as he voiced what everybody in the audience was thinking. And that is, oh, I see, it's okay for Parsippany to take risks in the pilot, but not for the developer. If you haven't been convinced how one-sided pilots are in favor of the developer, I'll give you another example. About 6 months after the pilot was agreed to, Stanbury announced to the council that market conditions had changed and they needed additional favorable terms in the pilot, threatening litigation if Parsippany did not approve them. In the end, Parsippany gave them what they wanted. Because there are affordable housing units involved, the courts do require that Parsippany provide the zoning changes necessary to build the development projects at 2 and 3 Campus Drive. But Parsippany has complied, thus avoiding the possibility of a builder's remedy lawsuit. The courts also permit the developer to ask for a pilot, but, and this is the key point, the governing body is under no legal obligation to grant one. The Stanbury pilot was an embarrassment for 2 mayors, council, and the taxpayers of Parsippany. It's going to cost the township in the neighborhood of $60 million in lost revenue over a 30-year period. With all of our budget problems, we cannot afford to repeat that mistake. Stop giving away taxpayers' money and kill these pilot ordinances on first reading tonight. Thank you.
Anyone else care to talk?
Nick Homiak, Lake Hiawatha. I do believe this is an attempt by Mr. Inglesino and his developer friends at a fast track. And there's no reason, there's too many ambiguities in a pilot deal. And I agree with Councilman Musella, until we see every little tit-bit detail, we shouldn't make any move, because after you make the move, and I get the impression from certain people on the council, it's a done deal already. This is the beginning of a done deal. Now, Parsippany was addicted to the rateable chase, and you got left with all these speculation developments. Market will bear, build and they will come. Nobody comes, you got an empty building, then what do you do with it? You set yourselves up for all this. And you knew it was coming, and it was the responsibility. And one thing we didn't do, we should have got as much open space in the town, not another shopping mall, as we possibly could to make our quality of life here better. We didn't do any of that. We had everybody afraid that everybody's going to move into affordable housing. Everybody's going to have 10 kids because women can't manage their own bodies, and we're all going to have to pay. Well, if the Board of Education gets the money anyway, you know what I say? Then fill them up with families. Because according to Mr. Inglesino, they're going to get the money anyway. So I guess if they don't get it from us, they'll get it from the state or the federal government. So I guess we should relax about that. But I don't understand why it has to, it doesn't have to be presented now. And you want a warehouse, you want air pollution, you want truck traffic, you want beep, 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 beep. I'd rather have affordable housing. And people today in this economy, they can't afford to have kids. And even if they did have a few kids, and most of these things aren't affordable anyway. It's a joke They're not gonna be filled. They don't do inventories. You can't have round three unless you just have this, let the developers do whatever they want. Because if you don't fill the spaces that are vacant, then you're gonna have to lower the rents for the people. That's what's the logical thing to do, not keep building. So we better just wait and see what's gonna happen. But, I mean, I could read you some things here. Like I said, there's a lot of ambiguities in here, 10%, 15%, 2%, developers, construction costs, stuff like that. There's all kinds of ways these deals can be made. So Justin Masella is the wise councilman in this case. We don't want to see a blank piece of paper. We want to see every little detail. And here, I'll give you a thing here. Land value is still subject to property taxes, all right. But most pilot deals are lower than the actual property, land tax. So right then and there, it tells you, it's, all it is for the developer. It's part of the corporations, our people, culture that we're creating. And heading this country in a direction that we're not a democracy anymore. We're a corporatocracy. We're gonna go back to a form of slavery. If you don't do what the corporations tell you to do, you're gonna be out in the street, you're gonna be homeless. But there's no reason to go forward on this resolution. It all sounds good, and like Judy Hernandez says, what are the environmental impacts? What are the environmental impacts? Right? Who cares? Right? But don't go forward on it, and I'll say this. This is the wise man here tonight. And when you gave UPS that pilot deal years ago, the year before they got that pilot deal, they profited $14 billion. There was no reason to give UPS a pilot deal in a town that was crazy about the rateable chase. It was all a political scheme to make it look like the governor and the private economy was better, was the right thing to do. Subvert the common good for the pursuit of happiness or the pursuit of profit for corporate developers. That's what we got involved with UPS. And in my opinion, that was should have never happened either.
Your time is up.
Okay.
Thank you.
So real quick, I'm gonna respond. First and foremost, Mr. Holmiak, you did not negotiate that. So you have, you want to say that it was, but we're gonna move to Marietta, Georgia, number one. It was a whole, thing that we had to do to keep them here in New Jersey. That was one of the things. Now, when you talk about environmental impacts, every application comes in, they have to do a phase one environmental study. You should know that, I mean, because you've been to many meetings, and they get an environmental impact study, and if they don't meet the requirements, they're not gonna be able to build on those sites. Or they got a remedy to them. That's what happens, Nick. And when it comes to open space, when it comes to, you spoke already. When it comes to open space, I can't force someone that owns property to sell it to the town. And that's what happened with Waterview. They didn't want to sell it to the town. Why? And everybody needs to understand this. What happened at Waterview was the town tried to get that. It was $7.5 million to purchase that property at the time. March 10, 2015, affordable housing criteria came in from the Supreme Court. You can ask the tax assessor. It went from $7.5 million to $25 million. Town could not afford that. And you have to have a willing seller. I'm really not in the process of wanting to take people's land from them. With that being said, with regards to the pilot programs, if the council don't do a pilot program, then we have vacant buildings. It's that simple. It's that simple.
Good evening. My name is Ivan Ferris. I live in Rainbow Lakes for 40 years. And kudos for all these residents here that are very smart. So you better watch out what you're doing, you guys that are in favor of the developers. I feel like my town is getting sold to the devil, to evil. I have my daughter, she got almost $1 million home in here. That's why my heart is beating right now. She's a doctor. She went to school so many years to live in this town because she grew up in this town. I have a son that doesn't live in here, but also grew up in this town. Now, my daughter went to school. She worked for so many years to get a degree as a doctor, and now, if this town is sold to the evil, that's why my heart is beating right now, and I'm glad that
Could you please face forward? Excuse me. Please face forward when you speak. Thank you.
I'm also speaking to the public.
No.
They will hear you. They will hear you, the public. I'm sorry, you have to speak to us. Yes, that's the communication we have.
No, it's not.
Please,
It's supposed to be
please.
directed this way. It's properly directed.
Okay, all these rules, what I'm thinking is that you guys think it twice before you make a decision. I'm talking from my heart, and my heart is beating right now. Thank you.
Please,
Thank you.
please just sign in. Ma'am, just need you to sign in.
I did.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. My name is Kenneth Kaplan. I live at 1480 Route 46. Now, it was mentioned before that the Board of Education will get all their funding, and yes, that is true. But if enough money doesn't come in from these pilot projects, that money will come from the other taxpayers. Now, I believe in the principle of equal protection under the law. I don't think any one of you would appreciate it if your home were taxed in a different way than your neighbor's house. If you have a Center Hall Colonial with 4 bedrooms, and your neighbor has a similar house, and he gets some special privilege, some special benefit, I don't think you'd appreciate that. And I think it sets a bad precedent to give developers these special breaks when other developers don't get them. There's a lot of construction going on and projects that are going to be built on Route 46 now that aren't benefiting from this program. So it just doesn't make sense to give this to some developers and not to others. It's unfair. Now, professionally, I'm a commercial real estate broker. I've been a commercial real estate broker for over 40 years. My office is here in Parsippany. I've leased tens of thousands of square feet of industrial space, office space, restaurant space. As I say, leases and sales. I've been doing this for many, many years. You don't necessarily have to believe Mr. Inglesino's remarks that if the pilot program is not granted, projects won't go forward. He says that, it doesn't mean it's true. We live in a community that is prime real estate. There's the old adage in real estate that there's 3 important things in real estate: location, location, location. We are a prime location, a very desirable place to locate, and this real estate has great value. Whether or not these developers get this pilot program, I don't believe that they're going to let these properties lay fallow. They're going to do something with them. So they're trying to blackmail us, basically. Projects won't go forward unless we get this pilot. It's not necessarily true. You don't have to believe that. Thank you.
So, something real quick, and I'll let it go, and I can't control myself tonight, but it's okay. If that were the case, and why we had a 30% vacancy rate, and it's gonna go up, and that's from the tax assessor, your vacancy rate's gonna go up in Parsippany, because why? Nobody is coming here. It's not A buildings, but B buildings and C buildings, okay? And that's why they gotta be retrofitted. So to retrofit them, somebody has to have money to do that and invest in it. If we're at 30% now, we could be at 35% in a year, and possibly 40% in another 2-3 years. But if we don't want to do nothing about it, then, just like you said, then we'll have to get the money from somewhere, and that's a fact. I'm only giving you what the facts are. I've dealt with pilot programs in 15, 16, 17. Then they were really beneficial because it actually worked out well for us because the ones that I worked out were no school-age children going into the schools. But now it's different with the rates going up. But to sit here and say they'll be filled, I've been waiting. And I can tell you each day I talk to those that are in there saying they're going to leave. We had all due to keep Avis here. Avis, I think, is 7th Century. That's going to be a dark building. Because why? It's outdated. So to sit here and say they're going to come, they're not coming. Because it's ever since COVID, things changed. People are working from home. And they're trying to get individuals to come back to work, and they can't. So you can see these office spaces are going to be depleted over time unless we do something.
I think just as sorry, I'm be really brief. I just think, listening to Mr. Kaplan, who is a commercial real estate professional, perhaps before we make a decision, we could hear an alternative point of view from the same commercial real estate community talking about a market-driven approach to fixing some of our problems. That could be a, good educational point instead of rushing forward with pilots before we make these long-term commitments, hearing, from other commercial real estate professionals what we can do and perhaps, how we could work together in trying to make that happen.
That's nice to say that, but a tax assessor is pretty, I trust our tax assessor more than I do the real estate industry. I trust him a lot. He's one of the top tax assessors probably in the state. And you can talk to all the real estate agents you want, and commercial realtors you want. Well, one realtor told me that, industrial's dying. Well, it's not dying. Industrial, that's what's peaking right now is industrial. That's why you're looking at warehousing. That's what's peaking. You imagine if I would have listened to that individual? I would have said no industrial here, and then we'd be worse off. So I spoke to the tax assessor today. He's going to have a statement on the 5th, and you're going to be able to speak to him. We know the situation here in Parsippany's blight, not just Parsippany, the whole entire state. Montville, all those towns, they're getting clobbered like we are. And we are, like Mr. Kaplan said, we have the best location, 53, 287, Route 80. Well, what's happening? Look at Interpace Parkway. Well, we just got by the skin of our teeth with Woodmont Properties that we had to get that deal going. And I'm trying to keep as much as of the residential off the town's roll as I can, so we can fill these other things up with industrial, so we don't have to go to the affordable housing, which is more of an impact than the industrial. And I'll say this right now before I close out: nobody up here is evil. I just wanted to make that comment.
And I don't think we're corrupt either.
No, we're not.
Anyone else like to come up and speak?
I'm sorry, I just have something quick to say. Bridget Cazzetto, Lake Parsippany. Speaking, I think I wasn't going to say anything, but I keep hearing about affordable housing. And of course, mandates, and I understand that's the state mandates for affordable housing. And of course, I would prefer redevelopment with a commercial industrial instead of residential. But I live in a neighborhood where affordable homes are being torn down every day. It's unrecognizable. I've spent over 45 years in this town, and I don't understand how, before when the mayor said earlier that when it comes to the planning board and the zoning board, his hands are tied. I don't understand why the residential building, how things can be approved, knowing when my family came here, we came here from Brooklyn to Lake Parsippany, it took my parents 7 years to put 2 rooms on a Lake Parsippany bungalow because they wouldn't give in to bribes, and they were harassed. And I'm going back to the early 80s. So I'm just saying, how do these builders just know they're going to buy this house in cash and they just know it's going to be torn down? Or even regular families. Recently I read the real estate transactions, buying a beautiful home for $600,000, and now there's a hole in the ground. How is that allowed? How is it, I've lived in my house. I bought my house 15 years ago. The whole street is unrecognizable. Trees aren't being replaced, and it's just unpleasant. And everyone says, well, leave if you don't like it. Well, I'm not going anywhere because I don't because I love my home. I mean, it's a tear down, but it's the prettiest house on the street. And so I just don't understand. That's what, when I know this is a little bit off subject, talking about what's going on in my neighborhood, but I just don't understand how things can be approved so easily when it takes somebody, so long to get a deck put on their house.
Well, are you done? Because with regards to the tear downs, somebody owns that property. I mean, if I buy a house in Lake Parsippany, I want to tear it down and build something else up, and I meet the land use requirements, I'm allowed to do that, or that person's allowed to do that. So, and if they sell, and you know what's funny? And I agree with you. I mean, I grew up in that area as well. Lake Parsippany's changed. The bottom line is that's part of the process. If I own something, I want to add to it, and I meet the criteria, or everybody over here, I don't know how you stop it, because it meets all the land use requirements. They don't just get approved because they come and buy a house. They got to meet the requirements of the land use. They got to meet requirements of zoning. They got to meet all those requirements, or they don't get approved. And if they don't get approved at the planning board for something, and something doesn't fit within our master plan, or whatever, they have to go for a variance, and they go to the next board. Okay, listen, I don't know how you stop that, other than you got to change the master plan drastically, and it's already been changed, from what I understand, for that criteria. Yeah. But if I own property, I don't know how someone else can tell me what I can do with it, or anybody else. And I'm not me. I'm not selling my house. I like where I live.
Thank you for coming up. Anyone else like to speak? Seeing no one?
No, we got someone.
Oh, please.
Hello, everybody. My name is Sam. My name is Sam Lapkowski. Okay, let me sign first.
No, you may speak.
Go ahead, you can sign. So you can sign after.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it was actually a very interesting meeting for me, especially for this pilot, all this terminology. I really appreciated Justin Mazzella, counsel, for his very smart questionnaire, because what so far reminded me like PLA project, and it was already done decision. It doesn't matter how many people signed against this, and same story with the pilot project gonna be. And about location, yes, location is very good for Parsippany, but it depends what you're gonna build. The warehouse, sometimes, I'm not the professional for this, but warehouse sometimes need to be like railroad, river, or ocean. Parsippany doesn't have this. They have a client for the warehouse already, or just promises. Because before build something, you need to know who's going to be occupy this. So far, it's just promises. And what we hear here, instead of when we're talking about financial stuff, number, because money likes the numbers, but so far just blank list, nothing. It's it for me. Thank you very much.
Thank you. You may sign now, please. Thank you. Anyone else care to speak? Seeing no one, I entertain a motion, please.
Motion to close public session.
Second. Motion made by Mr. Neglia, seconded by Mr. Karifi. Roll call, Mr. Karifi?
Yes.
Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Mr. Sella?
Yes.
Mr. Neglia?
Yes.
Mr. Grignani?
Yes.
Motion, closed.
Before we go on to the ordinances for introduction, I'd like to reiterate, it is only for introduction. The administration, once we receive the financials, I'm asking to please have them given out on our website so that our residents can see them and be informed as to what the financials are. Thank you. Mr. DePiero?
Ordinance 2023:26. An ordinance of the Township Council of the Township of Parsippany-Troy Hills adopting the 7-Campus Drive redevelopment plan. Be it resolved that the above ordinance be introduced, read by title, and passed on first reading at a meeting of the Township Council of the Township of Parsippany-Troy Hills held on November 9th, 2023, and that said ordinance be further considered for a second reading and final passage at a meeting to be held on December 5th, 2023, at 7 p.m. prevailing time, or as soon thereafter as the matter may be reached at the municipal building in said township, at which time all persons interested shall be given an opportunity to be heard concerning said ordinance. Be it further resolved that the clerk be authorized and directed to advertise said ordinance with the notice of introduction thereof being published in the official newspaper according to law. Motion to approve the above resolution by myself.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. DePiero, seconded by Mr. Neglia. Roll call. Mr. Karifi?
Yes.
Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Mr. Musella?
Yes, I just have a quick question on
Sure.
this, though. If we're voting on this, it's important for how I'm going to vote. Is this setting the stage for another pilot to be under consideration?
No, if I may, I believe Mr. Inglesino mentioned that this is for introduction. That doesn't mean that every developer comes before us, we are going to approve, or the next council will approve the pilot. This is just for introduction.
No,
Once it comes before us on the 5th and on, I believe it's the 19th or the 16th, then we will have an opportunity to say yes or no on everyone that we are making an introduction this evening.
7 Campus Drive is going to be a warehouse.
Yes, 7 Campus Drive is a warehouse, and I believe we do have a tenant in 7 Campus Drive.
Okay, Mr. Musella?
Yes.
Mr. Neglia?
Yes.
Ms. Grignani?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Ordinance 2023:27, ordinance of the Township of Parsippany-Troy Hills in the County of Morris authorizing the execution of financial agreement with the Township and AR at Parsippany Urban Renewal LLC, granting a tax exemption with respect to that certain property identified as Block 737, Lot 3, in accordance with the long-term tax exemption law, NJSA 40A 20-1 ETSEQ. Be it resolved that the above ordinance be introduced, read by title, and passed on first reading at a meeting of the Township Council of the Township of Parsippany-Troy Hills held on November 9th, 2023, and that said ordinance be further considered for second reading and final passage at a meeting to be held on December 5th, 2023 at 7 p.m. prevailing time, or as soon thereafter as the matter may be reached, the municipal building in said township, at which time all persons interested shall be given the opportunity to be heard concerning said ordinance. Be it further resolved that the clerk be authorized and directed to advertise said ordinance with the notice of introduction thereof being published in the official newspaper according to law. Motion to approve the above resolution by myself.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Karifi, seconded by Mr. Neglia. Roll call. Mr. Karifi?
Yes.
Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Mr. Musella?
No.
Mr. Neglia?
Yes.
Ms. Grignani?
Yes.
Motion passes 4-1.
Ordinance 2023:28, ordinance of the Township of Parsippany-Troy Hills in the County of Morris authorizing the execution of financial agreement with the Township and Avalon Parsippany Two-Campus Urban Renewal LLC, granting a tax exemption with respect to that property identified as Block 202, Lot 3.2, in accordance with the long-term tax exemption law, NJSA 40A:20-1. Be it resolved that the above ordinance be introduced, read by title, and passed on first reading at a meeting of the Township Council of the Township of Parsippany-Troy Hills held on November 9th, 2023, and that said ordinance be further considered for second reading and final passage at a meeting to be held on December 5th, 2023, 7 p.m. prevailing time, or as soon thereafter as the matter may be reached at the municipal building in said township, at which time all persons interested shall be given an opportunity to be heard concerning said ordinance. Be it further resolved that the clerk be authorized and directed to advertise said ordinance with the notice of introduction thereof being published in the official newspaper according to law. Motion to approve the above resolution made by myself.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Musella, seconded by Mr. Karifi. Roll call. Mr. Karifi?
Yes.
Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Mr. Musella?
No.
Mr. Neglia?
Yes.
Ms. Grignani?
Yes.
Motion passes 4-1.
Ordinance 2023-29, ordinance of the Township of Parsippany-Troy Hills in the County of Morris authorizing the execution of financial agreement with the Township and Avalon Parsippany-Troy Campus Urban Renewal LLC granted a tax exemption with respect to that certain property identified as Block 202, Lot 312, in accordance with the long-term tax exemption law NJSA 40A 20-1 ETSEQ. Be it resolved that above said ordinance be introduced, read by title, and passed on the first reading at a meeting of the Township of Parsippany-Troy Hills held on November 9, 2023, and that said ordinance be further considered for a second reading and final passage at a meeting to be held on December 5th, 2023, at 7 p.m. prevailing time, or as soon thereafter as the matter may be reached at the municipal building in said township, at which time all persons interested shall be given an opportunity to be heard concerning the ordinance. Be it further resolved that the clerk be authorized and directed to advertise said ordinance and a notice of introduction thereof being published in the official newspaper according to law. Motion to approve the above resolution by myself.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Neglia, seconded by Mr. Karifi. Roll call, Mr. Karifi?
Yes.
Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Mr. Musella?
No.
Mr. Neglia?
Yes.
Ms. Grignani?
Yes.
Motion passes 4-1. Just need to review.
Non-consent agenda. Resolutions. R 2023-154, designating AR at Parsippany Urban Renewal LLC as redeveloper of the property known as Block 737, Lot 3, in the Township of Parsippany-Troy Hills, and authorizing the execution of a redevelopment agreement with AR at Parsippany Urban Renewal LLC for the redevelopment of such property and construction of a warehouse building in accordance with the redevelopment plan. Motion to approve the resolution above by myself.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. DePiero, seconded by Mr. Karifi. Roll call, Mr. Karifi?
Yes.
Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Mr. Musella?
Just, can I get clarification? How does this relate to the pilot, this resolution?
Doesn't, just names him as redeveloper.
Okay, so it's not related at all?
No.
Is it the same thing with the next resolution?
Next resolution is related to the pilot, that's just, declaring that property.
Area in need of-
Non-condemnation area needed development.
Okay,
So,
yes.
Mr. Neglia?
Yes.
Ms. Grignani?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Resolution 2023-155, declaring a certain property identified as Block 202, Lot 3.8 on the official tax map of the Township of Parsippany-Troy Hills and located at 7 Campus Drive as a non-condemnation area in need of redevelopment. Motion to approve the resolution by myself. Second.
Motion made by Mr. Karifi, seconded by Mr. Neglia. Roll call, Mr. Karifi?
Yes.
Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Mr. Musella?
Yes.
Mr. Neglia?
Yes.
Ms. Grignani?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Council members, please review the consent agenda resolutions.
For our next meeting.
For our next meeting. Thank you, Mr. DePiero.
Approval of payroll and bills list. CFO Leonard Ho recommends authorization for payment. Authorized payment of the November 9th, 2023 regular miscellaneous payroll estimated at $1.75 million. Payment of bills from voucher list of November 1st, 2023 through November 3rd, 2023 is $969,691. Motion to approve the authorization for payment above by myself.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Musella, seconded by Mr. Karifi. Roll call, Mr. Karifi?
Yes.
Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Mr. Musella?
Yes.
Mr. Neglia?
Yes.
Ms. Grignani?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Motion to adjourn the meeting by myself. Second.
Motion made by Mr. Neglia, seconded by Mr. Karifi. Roll call, Mr. Karifi?
Yes.
Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Mr. Musella?
Yes.
Mr. Neglia?
Yes.
Ms. Grignani?
Yes.
We're adjourned. Have a great night, everybody.
And happy Veterans Day to all our veterans.
Going on a workers' comp, these chairs.
Where did